Friends, what really happened to Pierce Brosnan? The tragedy hidden behind the screen of this actor is something very few people truly know, and today we're going to reveal it. And trust me, by the end, it might bring tears to your eyes. Born in Ireland in 1953, Pierce Brosnan's life began with a deep sense of emptiness. His father left the family shortly after he was born, and he never got the chance to know him. In childhood, the presence of parents plays a huge role in shaping a person's emotional strength, sense of security, and confidence. But in Pierce's case, that essential foundation was missing. This absence created an emotional void in his life. Not having any memory of his father didn't just mean missing a person, it meant growing up without knowing a part of his own identity. As a child, he may not have fully understood what he was missing, but as he grew older, that absence became more real, more painful. At the same time, this hardship quietly made him stronger and more independent. Often, the struggles we face in childhood become the very force that shapes our resilience. And in Pierce's case, we can clearly see that his difficult beginnings didn't break him, they built him. At just 1 year old, an age when a child needs their mother the most, his life took another heartbreaking turn. His mother moved to London to work as a nurse, leaving little Pierce in the care of his grandparents. This created a deep sense of separation in his early years. With both parents absent, he was forced to face a reality no child should have to face so early. Though his grandparents gave him love and care, it could never fully replace the presence of his parents. Even if he didn't consciously remember that separation, its impact stayed with him. Experiences like this often teach a person how to live with loneliness, but they also build emotional strength in ways most people never see. After the death of his grandparents, Pierce's life became even more unstable. Without a permanent home, he had to move from one relative's house to another. For a child, constantly changing environments is deeply unsettling. It takes away the sense of belonging, the feeling of having a home. As he grew up, a quiet feeling of discomfort and inadequacy settled inside him. He began to see himself as a burden to others, as if he was being taken in out of obligation, not love. This kind of feeling can deeply affect a child's self-worth and confidence. But once again, these struggles shaped him. Adapting to new environments again and again, learning to live with loneliness, all of it made him more patient, more resilient. His unstable childhood became the foundation of his inner strength. Then came 1986, a turning point in his career. He was offered the role of James Bond for the first time. At that time, he was already gaining recognition through the TV series Remington Steele. But fate had other plans. His contract with the show was still active. At first, it seemed like the show was ending, which would allow him to take the Bond role. But unexpectedly, the show got renewed. Because of his contractual obligations, he had to let go of the opportunity. And just like that, the biggest role of his life slipped away. Instead, Timothy Dalton was chosen as the new James Bond. It was a heartbreaking moment. A role that could change an actor's entire life was right in his hands, and yet he lost it. But this wasn't the end of his story. In fact, this loss prepared him for something even greater. After waiting for 8 long years, fate knocked on his door again in 1994. Once again, he was offered the role of James Bond, the same role he had once lost. This time, nothing stood in his way. Everything aligned perfectly, and in 1995, his first Bond film, GoldenEye, was released. That film changed everything. It wasn't just a movie, it was the result of years of patience, pain, and perseverance. He brought a fresh energy to the character. Modern, charismatic, yet true to the legacy, and the world embraced him instantly. But while his career was rising, his personal life was breaking. In 1987, his first wife, Cassandra Harris, was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. At that moment, Pierce made a choice. He put his career aside and dedicated himself entirely to caring for her. For 4 long years, he stood by her side, not just as a husband, but as a constant source of love and support. But sometimes, love isn't enough to win against fate. In 1991, Cassandra passed away. The loss shattered him. Losing someone you love that deeply leaves a wound that never truly heals. Years later, in 1994, after enduring so much pain, a new light entered his life. He met Keely Shea Smith. Their relationship grew slowly but deeply, and in 2001 they married. After a lifetime of loneliness and loss, Keely brought peace and stability into his life. Pierce often calls her his anchor, the person who kept him from falling apart. For someone who had faced so much darkness, she became his strength, his reason to keep going. But fate wasn't done testing him. In a cruel twist, his adopted daughter, Charlotte Brosnan, was also diagnosed with the same disease, ovarian cancer. Imagine this. On one side, he was on screen playing James Bond, the man who defeats every enemy, and on the other, in real life, he was sitting beside his daughter's bed, helpless, watching her fade away. In 2013, Charlotte passed away. Losing one loved one to the same disease is devastating, but losing 2 is unimaginable. This was one of the darkest chapters of his life. Later, stepping away from the intense action hero image of Bond, Pierce chose to explore different sides of himself as an artist. One of the most beautiful examples of this was Mamma Mia, a film filled with music, joy, and emotion. It showed the world a completely different side of him. Today, he spends much of his time painting, expressing his emotions through art. For him, painting is not just a hobby, it's a way to heal, to feel, to remember. He is also deeply involved in cancer awareness and environmental causes, turning his personal pain into purpose. Pierce Brosnan saved the world many times on screen as James Bond, but in real life, his battles were far more painful, far more silent, and far more real. He lost people he loved. He endured loneliness. He had every reason to break. But he didn't. He fought for himself, for his family, for love. And that's why he is not just an actor. He is a true warrior. The man who was a hero in movies never gave up in real life. And that is his greatest victory. If this story touched your heart, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because we bring you real, powerful, and deeply human stories like this, stories that stay with you long after the video ends. Love.